What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Today on the show, I want to talk about Tristan Lay, who is going to spend a few days at the University of Oklahoma here as a part, I believe, of the Sooner Summit. I want to talk about the Sooner Summit, what exactly that is. I want to get into Josh Gibson and MLB's MVP and the renaming of that. We'll talk a little bit about the Washington NFL football team naming the first black president in NFL history today. And I want to get into a bit of the conversation around the Big Ten and the Pac-12. If this is your first time here, consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. So let's start with the letter that was sent to Michigan President Mark Schlissel and Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren. Now, there's a number of ways to talk about this, and I prefer to talk about it with a little bit of breaking news, where I was able to break this morning. The letter that was sent to the Big 12, to the Big 10, was, organized by the McCaffreys. And we didn't talk about that as much. Dylan McCaffrey is expected to play quarterback, or at least compete for quarterback there. And I want to read for you the letter in its entirety as it was sent at around 12:30 earlier Monday morning. To Commissioner Warren and University of Michigan President Mark Schlissel, this communication is in response to the cancellation of the 2020 Big Ten football season. We, the parents of the University of Michigan football players, are compelled to express our support for our sons and for the Michigan coaching staff and program. We have seen the responses from other Big Ten football families, and we support their letters. We feel that the decision to cancel the 2020 season was premature. We also believe the Big Ten and university presidents failed to exercise due diligence by not acquiring the input of the very student athletes their decisions would impact. The Michigan football staff has taken every measure to ensure the safety and well-being of our sons. Coach Harbaugh and staff have maintained consistent communication with us through the entire process. We are well versed in the protocols that have been established by the University of Michigan to reduce risk and maintain a safe environment. As such, we have complete trust in the coaching and medical staff of the University of Michigan. They go on. More importantly, we have complete trust in our sons and their ability to determine what is best for them. Therefore, we overwhelmingly support their decision to play or opt out this fall. As football players, they understand risk. As young men, they understand the consequences of their decisions. They are able to balance potential risk with reward. We believe that our boys participating in Michigan football this fall is the best possible environment during these uncertain times. We strongly believe that denying these players the opportunity to compete this season would jeopardize their futures. They deserve the opportunity to play, and we want the following. Number one, a reversal of the cancellation of the 2020 10-game season, a detailed description of the critical facts that were used to cancel the season. That's number two. This is number three, a video meeting with President Schlissel to discuss the rationale of voting against playing when our safety protocols was proving to be effective. Number four, a video meeting with Big Ten Commissioner to discuss the Big Ten's rationale. And number five, a detailed description of standard protocols and safety practice for all Big Ten teams. It's a very clear and well-worded letter where the Michigan football parents, which are a bunch of parents, we're talking about at least 200 here, have decided that they want to take this issue into their hands as well. You'll know that on Sunday morning, Justin Fields began circulating a petition for which he asked anybody to sign to try to show the Big Ten that they indeed want to play football and that there are a lot of people that would like to see them play football. But that's not been in dispute, right? And this is really undermining the efforts by the We Are United and College Player Athlete Unity organizations that are trying to work with the Big Ten to try to establish these health and safety protocols. But more than that, Kevin Warren, whose son will begin practice in the SEC at Mississippi State, is working at the pleasure of the university presidents, all 14 of them. They have the power to hire him. They have the power to fire him. And what we know from Pat 40 is that 12 of them voted against playing fall football. Only 2 voted for it, Nebraska and Iowa. There is some dispute about whether or not the new president at Ohio State voted for or against, but if Michigan and their president were to reverse their opinion, a decision, vote on playing football this fall to the positive, to the affirmative, that would mean 7 presidents are for it and 7 presidents are against it. And it's really difficult to make the argument now that students are on campus that you can't play football as well. Now, whether or not you agree with playing football in the fall or postponing to the spring, you can see that it's hypocritical to have those kids onto campus in the first place and then tell the football team that it can't play. But what it comes down to is a marketing issue and a public image issue. As I understand it and as I see it, every Power 5 football program is the best marketing engine at the university. We can tie a direct line from rising ACT scores at a university to how good the football team is. The University of Alabama, for instance, counts 60% of its student body population from out of state. That's enormous. And a lot of that is because Nick Saban has put together a dynasty and people want to be a part of that. Same thing is true at the University of Michigan and Ohio State. Now, what are the optics like if your program has the one player that gets deathly sick, that ends up in ICU, that dies as a result of contracting COVID-19? You're going to have to deal with that, and it's not going to be pretty. Now, as to the liability issue, I understand that there are attorneys that believe that a frivolous lawsuit would be the lawsuit that gets filed on this, or that players assuming liability for these sorts of situations is already something they agree to when they play football in the first place, because, if you get hurt playing football, you suing the university is difficult to do, but it's not impossible. What I see here isn't that the lawsuits will happen. It's that the public discourse around them is going to look bad for the university. There are going to be very few people that want to side with the university if a player is found to be deathly ill or dies as a result of this. The public shaming will be immense. And no university president wants that on their resume or on their conscience. Same thing with any athletic director. And it's not about whether or not you want it or not. It's about, did you do everything to make sure that it can't happen? And I think that's what the Big Ten is trying to make certain of when they make the decision about not playing fall football. They want to CYA. And while I, like you, respect parents from Ohio State, from Iowa, from Nebraska, from the Big Ten at large, saying, hey, look, we're perfectly comfortable with our kids playing fall football this year, I also would tell you that the Big Ten brought in $759 million in fiscal income in 2018. They know what kind of money they stand to make, and they still punted on a fall football season. I don't believe a strongly worded email is going to change their mind. I don't believe that a petition that anybody can sign by hitting a button is going to change their minds. I do believe that if, when, how the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC are playing football in September and the Big Ten is not, that is going to discredit the Big Ten in a way that is going to be really difficult to overcome, especially with Gene Smith already announcing his loyalty and allegiance to the Big Ten. In many ways, we think that Ohio State could stand apart from the Big Ten, and it's very much their league, in the same way that the Big 12 is Oklahoma and Texas's league, right? And we can make an argument that's more Texas's league than Oklahoma's league, precisely because Texas brings in the second most revenue of any program in all of college football. Now, add to that ampersand U in the SEC. They bring in more money than anybody else, and they played in the Texas Bowl last year. Texas A&M has not played in a national championship game this century, and yet there are so many people that buy into Aggie football that you have to consider it when you talk about who gets to make decisions. We're talking about Jimbo Fisher signing a contract for $75 million over 10 years, all right? If he happens to win them a national championship, expect the money that they make to grow by leaps and bounds. Last year, it was just over $215 million. If they were to win a national championship this year, expect that to exceed $300 million. And nobody would be more excited than ampersand U. The same thing is true with the University of Michigan. They know that they're right there. They know that if they can beat an Ohio State and they can win a Big Ten championship, they get into the playoff. Now, whether or not they win a national championship is not really the goal right now. The goal right now is to beat Ohio State and to have that mean something, right? You can't lose 6 games, beat Ohio State, and expect everybody to be okay, although they'll be better off than they were. You have to win all those games. Then you got to beat Ohio State. Then you got to not screw the pooch and win the Big Ten championship. I'm very sympathetic to Justin Fields and these parents and all the players who won't be able to play college football. The Big Ten sticks with their decision. I also don't see anything to change their minds, as we had the NCAA's top doctor go on CNN earlier on Saturday and say, we are not in a place to where we can play football. At the time that they were projecting to be able to play football in April, he expected the deaths and the rate of the virus to all be trending downward, not spreading. And as you look across the country, we had 23 sorority sisters in Stillwater contract the COVID, and now we got 23 sorority sisters who are all in quarantine in that sorority house, which is its own sort of sitcom. We also have Tuscaloosa, where we've seen masses of people with no mask just out and about, as if it does not matter. And if you can't trust the folks in Tuscaloosa to mask up, what makes you think you can trust anybody in any part of the country to mask up? If we play football like the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC are still planning to do, it will be with this climate. It will be with lots of people having contracted the virus either asymptomatically or else, or it could be to the detriment of all, right? Which is to say that this could set us back even further. And I don't think anybody wants that. Let's check the chat.